What's wrong with us? Why are we here? They want to figure out what has brought us here.
I think they're misinformed. I think when people hear the word addict, they just think junkie in the back alley. And there's no attention paid to the emotional and underlying issues that make a person an addict.
I feel a lot of people just think we're all just screwed up druggies.
I think one misconception would be that everyone on the street is an addict, but I don't believe that's true.
The biggest misconception that I found is I think the community correlates the crime that is going on in town and assumes that it's all coming from our population here at the shelter. We've had a lot of community people come in and be upset and say, you know, there's garbage downtown, and we've had a business broken into, or there's things getting stolen downtown, and, you know, there's crime at night, and we've tried to explain to them over and over that our clients have to actually have a curfew, and so they're in here all night.
My life's been a little more different than to others. It's something I've lived with for roughly about 2 years now. It's on and off depending. Families turn their back on me. And I know a lot of people know about it somewhat, but they don't know all of it. It's been really rough because I really want my dog back. But the homeless thing, I can change it. I've been addicted to speed, crystal meth for 20 years.
I was doing cocaine.
You know, I started with just natural things, just weed, and then when I was old enough to drink, I started drinking a little bit, but I mostly just kept to the natural stuff.
I've been part of the harm reduction team for a while.
Because I'm involved in different organizations and churches.
You're a pretty involved guy.
Yeah, and you know, I try and help people out.
There's varying stories of how each and every one of us has gotten here. Many of them, you know, there's all kinds of different reasons why people have gotten here. There's mental health, there's lots of us, including myself, have mental health issues. I'm bipolar myself.
Yeah, I had an abusive alcoholic dad, so.
My family life was a little chaotic when I was growing up. We were poor.
We get so caught up in the drugs, and then we find that everybody's turning their back on us. So we all get just secluded into our own little group. We have our own little group of people, right?
Yeah.
Like around here, it's the same too. Like for people that use needles and that, they're all in their own little group.
It was a slow progression, but it was a progression nonetheless. And then because of addiction, because of the emotional aspects of addiction and like the separation I felt and the alienation in society that I felt, it eventually ended up being harder drugs because that was a way to cope with, you know, not including myself in society. And
I'm not feeling very connected to Mission, but
You're out and about in Mission. What's the biggest misconception that people think?
you know, are we drug addicts? Are we just gonna go to prison? Or, you know, what is it that got us here?
the it got out of hand for me when my relationship ended because of addiction. It wasn't very hard at all.
No?
Just, yeah, it was offered to me at a meeting, so I went. It was offered help initially by a coworker. I was taken to a meeting initially by a coworker. I went to one meeting and I had quit, but then I ended up relapsing. So I went back to a meeting, and because I still had a list of names and numbers, which I called. I went to a meeting and told them my situation, which was dire at that point, and,
Yeah.
and I was offered a number that I could call for a recovery house.
There was times when I wanted to get clean, but it was so hard to get clean in that environment. It was so hard. If I went to detox and then I got out of detox, I was going right back down into the same neighborhood where everybody used, and there was drugs on every 5 minutes. Walking down the street, you could find drugs of anywhere. In the places, in the shelters, everywhere you went, people were giving you drugs. Or I ended up running away a few times. And once I started to run away, I got into a little bit more trouble. I started doing a little bit more drugs. Started ending up in the streets with a little bit of youth gang, and was in and out of foster care for a little while. My mom couldn't handle my behavior anymore, and so they signed over a temporary custody order to the ministry. Probably Friday, Saturday nights, stayed up a little late. I had a daughter by that time, so my mom called the ministry. She told them that she thought I had a drug problem, and that it was out of control, and that I wasn't a good mom. And the ministry came to apprehend her. I was pretty devastated. No one had ever said anything to me about it. I was coming in blind, like I didn't realize that it had gotten that bad. It kind of snuck up on me. And so when they came to apprehend her, I took it badly. This is my chance and my opportunity to love somebody and feel loved in return. And I lost my purpose in that moment. Within about 24 hours, someone said, "Would you like to try heroin?" And I said, "Sure." And I found some relief in that. It kind of gave me, I was able to sleep. I was able to completely check out. I was able to forget about what was going on and be completely numb and oblivious to whatever was going on around me. But I didn't really want to do anything about it at this point. I didn't really think that I had much else to live for. I thought my family is against me. I don't have my daughter anymore. Her father thinks I'm a junkie. And, I might not have a job. I spent all my savings within a few days, and so I am. And this girl looked at me and she said, "I know how you can make some money." She said, "I make some good money standing on this corner right here." And I started to work the corner and started to sell sex to get money for drugs. I started to go to jail a couple times, detox a couple times. I went to the hospital with numerous problems. I had endocarditis, heart infection from using needles, using dirty needles. I caught Hep C. I had another bloodborne infection, had to have stomach surgery, and had a stroke, got beat up, tortured by John. Ended up again in the hospital with blood clot in my heart and a brain aneurysm. Came through that and ended up back down on the street every single time. I just didn't know how to get out of there. And it wasn't that the places weren't there for me to go to, because every time I got discharged from the hospital, if my husband didn't want me home, they sent me to somewhere. There was a lot of services in the downtown east side. There was triage, there was women's shelters, there was places that clothed me, fed me, gave me money. I had social services on and off, whether I had an apartment or not. That was difficult at some points, because at some points the days just blurred together. I had sleep deprivation. I was so skinny. I was obviously a junkie. To actually get anywhere off the downtown east side was really hard because no one wanted to rent to me. So I just ended up either in a downtown east side hotel, or I would spend all my money on drugs and I wouldn't be able to pay my rent, and then I'd be right back out on the street. And I kind of cruised that 10-block radius for the next 10 years.
You say you were, that the drugs had a hold of your life, that's what, that was your purpose now?
There was nothing else. I didn't, there was no, my whole day, everything I did consisted of finding ways to get more drugs. There was nothing else for me, and every time I kind of didn't have drugs, or anytime I just kind of woke up, I mean, I physically couldn't even function like normal. It was not even getting high anymore, it was just being normal. I couldn't even function physically because of the addiction without getting something into my body, and then I could go about my day. But as soon as I put something on my body, it started that cycle of craving and trying to find ways to get more.